Namaskar. Good morning, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students and scholars, teachers, trainers, professors, professionals, official listeners, learners. I welcome all respected doctors and directors. I welcome all honorable ministers and managers. I welcome all adorable advocates, retired administrative advisors. I welcome the most honorable President Modi ji, UnivProfDrRKSMB from USA. Heartily cordially welcome. It is really nice side, nice place, nice section that we are defining our holy, spiritual, Indian, cultural, educational, constitutional identities in the form of unity and diversity. Today, let us go through. Oh, dear Lord, you are mine. There are innumerable ways to attain God realization. Amongst all those paths, I have found a unique path which is uncommon. It is I belong to God. You may perceive this as ordinary, but in my opinion, it is extremely unique. Each one of us is God's child. It is not a usual fact. This renders God realization exceedingly easy. One disciple put a question in front of Swamiji regarding the presence of Lord or God. He says, Swamiji, earlier you instructed us regarding seeking refuge in God and chanting His name. Then you asked us to regularly repeat, Oh my dear Lord, I must never forget you. And now you are telling us to accept our belongingness to God. Which of these sadhanas should we follow? Then Swamiji replied, Follow which I am instructing you now. All sadhanas are excellent, but accepting that God is mine, this makes us close to God. The closer we are to God, the better the worship becomes. One more question was put by a disciple in front of Swamiji. Carrying out all deeds diligently or disregarding our belongingness with the material world or accepting our belongingness to God, which among us the three sadhanas is most appropriate to break away from our attachment and aversion and attain liberation. Swamiji says, accepting our belongingness to God is the foremost sadhana because our acceptance of the belongingness to God by the virtue of God's grace, attachment, and aversion are also resolved, equivalency also comes, serenity is also attained, and liberation is also fulfilled. Because in our essence we are fragments of God, Mame Vansho Jeev Loke. By correcting this essence, everything else gets corrected. If you wish to effortlessly experience God, it is my request that you must accept I belong to God. This practice is much more powerful than chup sadhana. For instance, a daughter in your family once married accepts that I belong to my husband's place. Similarly, you must accept that I belong to God. This is an extremely effortless and preeminent sadhana. God has Himself specified this as the ultimate untold secret Sarvabhatma. In the entire instruction of the Gita, the term Sarvabhatma had been used only once. I am daily studying this with folded hands that, in my opinion, this is the foremost sadhana. I feel so in my heart that if we accept that God belongs to us, then our task will be quickly done. God is mine. If this is accepted, then a whole lot of our work is done. We have already come quite close to God. ट्रम्प की हॉर्मोन स्टेट पर नाटो को चेतावनी। ट्रम्प ने हॉर्मोन स्टेट खोलने के लिए नाटो सहयोगियों मदद न करने पर नाटो को बहुत बुरे भविष्य की दी चेतावनी। कच्चे तेल की कीमत $103 से पहुंची ऊपर। राज्यसभा के लिए 10 राज्यों की 37 सीटें। राज्यसभा के लिए 26 सदस्य चुने गए निर्विरोध। राज्यसभा की 11 सीटों के लिए आज होगा मतदान। पश्चिम बंगाल चुनाव आयोग का बड़ा फैसला। पश्चिम बंगाल में चुनाव के तारीखों की घोषणा के बाद एक्शन। पश्चिम बंगाल के मुख्य सचिव और गृह सचिव को हटाया। पश्चिमी एशिया के लिए आज एयर इंडिया की 48 उड़ानें। दिल्ली और मुंबई से एक एक वापसी उड़ान। भारतीय शहरों और जेदा के बीच 10 नई उड़ानों का होगा संचालन। मस्कट के लिए 12 निर्धारित उड़ानें संचालित करेगी एयर इंडिया एक्सप्रेस। विश्व बॉक्सिंग फ्यूचर्स कप में भारत का शानदार प्रदर्शन। भारतीय मुक्केबाजों ने कल 5 पदक। मुक्केबाजी में चंद्रिका पुजारी ने जीता स्वर्ण। दुबई इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट के पास ड्रोन क्रैश। ड्रोन क्रैश में ईंधन टैंक को नुकसान। राहत और बचाव कार्य में जुटी दुबई सिविल डिफेंस। ट्रंप की हॉर्मोज स्ट्रेट पर नाटो को चेतावनी। ट्रंप ने हॉर्मोज स्ट्रेट खोलने के लिए नाटो सहयोगियों मदद न करने पर नाटो को बहुत बुरे भविष्य की चेतावनी। कच्चे तेल की कीमत $103 से पहुंची ऊपर। राज्यसभा के लिए 10 राज्यों की 37 सीटों के लिए चुनाव आज। राज्यसभा के लिए 26 सदस्य चुने गए निर्विरोध। राज्यसभा की 11 सीटों के लिए आज होगा मतदान। पश्चिम बंगाल चुनाव आयोग का बड़ा फैसला। पश्चिम बंगाल में चुनाव की तारीखों की घोषणा के बाद एक्शन। पश्चिम बंगाल के मुख्य सचिव और गृह सचिव को हटाया. All that we wish to depart from would be achieved by God's grace. God's strength only in Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga, both sadhana, path, and sadhya destination are distinguishable. Whereas in Bhakti Yoga, God Himself is the sadhana as well as the sadhya. That's why the path of Bhakti Yoga is comparatively brisker to treat. Everybody is not aware of this fact. That's why I keep on emphasizing that you must accept your belongingness to God. God is our Father. Each one of us is beloved son and daughter. Accept this and consider most of our work completed. It is better than God's continual remembrance to accept our relationship with God, that I belong to God. A relationship is ever existing. Once the relation is embraced, then God's remembrance occurs inherently and doesn't have to be practiced. It happens without any effort. I have a mother. In this manner, we have accepted our mother. So now we are not required to remember this. Like a rich man is always proud from within that I have so much money. Similarly, you should also at all times feel proud from within that I belong to God. Ashyabhimana जय जन भोरे मैं सेवक रघुपति पति मोरे. However you are, you must never disregard the fact that I belong to my Lord. Be it happiness or sorrow, health or sickness, profit or loss. But I belong to God, God belongs to me. Your mind must never dwindle from this principle. There is no equivalent path, no ability, no strength, nor privilege than acceptance of our belongingness to God. In the acceptance of God's belongingness, the mind, the intellect, etc. are not required, whereas in our sadhana, the existence of the mind, the intellect, etc. are required even with the persisting absence of certain interest in seeker. God chooses to concentrate only on the belongingness and not the absent traits, because our belongingness to God is absolute. मस्कट के लिए 12 निर्धारित उड़ानें संचालित करेगी एयर इंडिया एक्सप्रेस. विश्व बॉक्सिंग फ्यूचर्स कप में भारत का शानदार प्रदर्शन. भारतीय मुक्केबाजों ने कुल 5 पदक किए अपने नाम. मुक्केबाजी में चंद्रिका पुजारी ने जीता स्वर्ण. दुबई इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट के पास ड्रोन क्रैश. ड्रोन क्रैश में ईंधन टैंक को नुकसान. राहत और बचाव कार्य में जुटी दुबई सिविल डिफेंस. ट्रंप की हॉर्मोन्स स्ट्रेट पर नाटो को चेतावनी. मदद न करने पर नाटो को बहुत बुरे भविष्य की दी चेतावनी. वायनाड में रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन जारी. राज्यसभा के लिए 10 राज्यों की 37 सीटों के लिए चुनाव आज. He who accepts his relation with God rises above the ordinary. He becomes a Sant Mahatma. He attains serenity and eternal joy. He becomes carefree of everything else. So accept that God belongs to you and relax. I belong to God. Never forget this, and you will certainly experience God. you will be naturally introduced to Satsang and Sant Mahatma. The most exceptional thing is an eternal relationship with God. By the virtue of the acceptance of the relationship, there is rapid augmentation, chanting of God's name, meditation, kirtan, etc. are not perpetual, and there is always some interference, whereas there is no interference in the relationship with God. For example, by sleeping, the marital relationship doesn't vanish. Similarly, in forgetfulness or sleep, our relationship with God doesn't vanish. It is perpetual and ever existing. There is exhaustion in performing, chanting, etc., but a relationship is never tiring. This relationship is immediate and eternal. Like marriage breaks only if you break it. If you accept that God belongs to me, then not even God can break this. The jiva or the embodied soul is a fragment of God. Therefore, if he connects with God by any means, he is certainly liberated. A relationship with God invariably leads to supreme welfare. Those who took God by enmity, like Kansha, Shishupala, etc., were liberated, and those who loved God utterly were also liberated. But those who failed to establish any relation were not liberated. If someone expresses that God is mine, it extremely pleases the Lord in reality, except for God. There is no one whom we can call ours. Due to your materialistic tendencies, you might become ignorant of God, but God never forgets you. Now let us discuss semi-modal auxiliaries. Semi-modal auxiliary verbs are semi-modals, also known as marginal modal verbs. These are the verbs that behave partly like the main verb and partly like a modal auxiliary verb. Semi-modal auxiliary verbs list dare, need, used to, ought to, and have to. Dare means be bold enough to do anything. It is commonly used in interrogative and negative sentence as a modal auxiliary. Dare is used to express, to challenge someone or something, to be brave enough, to be reckless or rude enough. Dare as a semi-modal auxiliary verbs. As a semi-modal verb, dare is always used in negative and interrogative sentences. As a semi-modal verb, it does not conjugate for a person or tense, and to preposition should not be used after it. In the negative, generally not is used. Contracted form daren't is rarely used. There are some examples. Let us go through some examples. I dare not drive this car. She dared not disobey her father. She dares not disobey her father. It is wrong. He dare not means daren't avoid her friendship. He dares not means daren't avoid her friendship. It is wrong. Dare he argue with his boss regarding this issue? Dare she take part in this terrific event? How dare you talk to me like this? These are some of the examples where we use in negative generally not is used. Contracted form daren't is rarely used. Dare as a main verb. Dare as the main verb conjugates for a person, tense, number and uses do form in negative and questions. As a main verb, there can be followed by a to infinitive. There plus to infinitive. Let us take some example. I dare him to go there in the dark night. He dares to speak against corruption. The students don't dare to argue with the teacher. The students don't dare to go to argue with the teachers. No student in the class dares to solve the problem. My friend wouldn't dare to avoid her friendship. She has never dared to disobey her father. Did she dare to accept your business proposal? Don't you dare to open this room. Wrong use of dare as a semi-modal. Let's take some example. Do we dare supply medicine to all the patients? It's wrong. Dare we supply medicine to all the patients? It's correct. Do we supply medicine to all the patients? No one dares attend the interview again. It is wrong. No one dare attend the interview again. It is correct. You do not dare mention your phone number. It is wrong. What's correct? Let us go through what error we have committed in this sentence. What will be the correct sentence? You dare not mention your phone number. It is correct. How dare you to oppose your How dare you to oppose my proposal? It is wrong. How dare you oppose my problem? How dare you oppose my proposal? Then it is correct. Wrong use of dare as a main verb. Let's take some example. He dared me complete this work in an hour. It is wrong. He dared me to complete this work in an hour. It's correct. No one dare to open this room. It is wrong. No one dares to open this room. Is correct. स्पीकर पर पीएम का अटूट विश्वास। पीएम नरेंद्र मोदी ने लिखा ओम बिरला को पत्र। अविश्वास प्रस्ताव खारिज होने पर जताई खुशी। पश्चिम बंगाल के मुख्य सचिव और गृह सचिव को हटाया। अविश्वास प्रस्ताव के पीछे था विपक्ष का स्वार्थ और अहम। स्पीकर पर पीएम का अटूट विश्वास। पीएम ने स्पीकर ओम बिरला की तारीफ। पीएम मोदी का लोकसभा स्पीकर के नाम पत्र। पीएम ने स्पीकर ओम बिरला की तारीफ। संतुलन और निष्पक्षता से सदन संचालन की प्रशंसा। आपके प्रयास से लोकतांत्रिक संस्थाओं की गरिमा मजबूत। अविश्वास प्रस्ताव के बाद वक्तव्य की सराहना। मुक्केबाजी में चंद्रिका जारी ने जीता स्वर्ण। वक्तव्य में संसदीय इतिहास का उल्लेख था प्रभावशाली। नियमों की सर्वोच्चता की स्पष्टता थी प्रभावशाली। Now let us go through where do we use need. It is used to express necessity or obligation. Need as a semi-modal auxiliary verb. As a semi-modal verb, need is always used in negative and interrogative sentences to express necessity. In negative sentences, we may use needn't, need not, never, no one, nothing, etc. Let's take some example. You need not inquire about this. She need not wait for your answer. He needn't give up studies. We need not have asked him for help. He need not have gone shopping today. To show that something was unnecessary in the past, but it happened. Let's take some example. No one need write my name in the register. Need we prepare the lesson plans again? Need I go to the doctor immediately? Need we attend the program? Now need as a main verb. Need as the main verb conjugates for a person, tense, and number and used to form negatives and questions. As a main verb, need can be followed by nouns, noun phrases, pronouns, gerunds, or to initiative. Need as a main verb means want or require. Need plus noun, need to plus verb. Let's take some example. Saraf needs a laptop and a mobile. I needed some amount of money yesterday. He doesn't need your advice. She needs to take a vaccine immediately. I have needed to answer all these questions. Does he need to reapply for the job? They need not to, needn't attend the class again. They do not need to attend the class again. Wrong use of need as a semi model. Let's take example. Do we need supply the books now? It is wrong. Need we supply the books now? It is correct. You do not need mention your phone number. It is wrong. You need not mention your phone number. It is correct. Where do we use used to? Used to as a semi modal auxiliary verb. As a semi modal verb, used to is used to express something that existed or happened repeatedly in the past but does not exist or happen now. Let's take some example. I used to get up early when I was a student. She used to sing melodious songs in her school days. We used to play several games in the evening. There used to be a big tree at the entrance of our village. We use did to form negatives and questions as in the main verbs and it is used to but not used to. Examples I didn't used to go to by I did not used to go to the gym when I was young. She did not used to study well in my school days. He did not, he didn't used to drink coffee daily. We used to like watching TV, didn't we? Did you used to copy in your exams? Didn't you used to smoke when you were young? Where did you used to spend your childhood days? What books did you used to read in your free time? How did you used to come to school before you brought a bike? As a main verb, here we use to similarly structured main verbs. Be used to and get used to. Be haunts are is am are was were used to. We use the structure. We use the structure. Be used to plus first verb plus ing or noun. This phrase is used to mean be accustomed to something. Something familiar to us or easy for us. Beat form can be used in any tense, past, present, future, not used to form negative sentences. Let's take some example. I am not used to getting up early in the morning. I am not used to fresh air in the morning. My friend is used to living in the village. My friend is not used to big. My friend is not used to go to big cities. She was used to my latest jobs. She was used to enjoying my latest jobs. They weren't used to driving big vehicles. They weren't used to big vehicles. Are they used to studying English novels? Are you used to English novels? Where do we use get used to? We use the structure get used to plus verb plus ing or noun. This phrase is used to mean to become accustomed to something. Get form can be used in any tense. Not is used to form negative sentences. There are few examples are given here. Here, he is getting used to speaking in English. He is getting used to the English language. She never got used to visiting the countryside. She never got used to the countryside. I can't get used to working in a new office. I could get used to my new job in a new office. I shall get used to living with my new roommates. I will never get used to my new roommates. Will you get used to making friends in the new college? Did you get used to the environment of the new college? Where do we use ought to? Ought to is considered a semi-modal auxiliary verb because, like modal verbs, ought to also does not take us for the third person singular. Unlike modal verbs, ought to ends in to. Ought to is used to express obligation, responsibility, probability, advice, worry, wish, duty, regret, etc. Let's take some example. As citizens, we ought to love our country. It's obligation kind of sentence. You ought to help needy people. It's responsibility kind of. The students ought to work hard to get good ranks. It's kind of advice. My father ought not to have scolded me. It's worry. My brother ought to pass all the exam. It is wish. She ought to get a hike in a salary from this month. It's probability. We ought to listen to the lessons carefully. The students ought to be regular to the classes. We ought to have closed the gate. Ought to express past. Ought to is used with have plus. Past participle verb is have plus past participle verb to express that something should have happened but didn't happen in the past. Let's take example. I ought to have gone to the USA with my friend. I ought to have continued to do research in English literature. Ought to in negative sentences. Ought not to. Yeah. Ought not. Oughtn't to. Example. Let's take some example. You ought not to quit your present job. You ought not to eat junk food. I oughtn't to have revealed the secret to you. It's great. We oughtn't to leave the kid all alone. It ought not to be difficult now. Ought to in interrogative sentences when we form questions or is placed before the subject and to can be used or omitted. Let's take some example. Ought we attend this music concert? Oughtn't he open a bank account? Or the call to punish the criminals? Ought not he to work hard to get a promotion? Or to can be replaced by shouldn't? Questions and negatives. Let's take example. You ought not to or oughtn't to have called him a big fool. You should not, shouldn't have called him a big fool. Ought we do, ought we to speak to the principal about this? Should we speak to the principal about this? There are common mistakes when we use ought to, like they must or to attend computer classes. There are two models, it is incorrect. They ought to attend computer class, it is correct. We don't ought to have wasted our precious time, it is incorrect. We ought not to have wasted our precious time, it is correct. Do they ought to postpone the annual examination, it is incorrect. Ought they postpone the annual examination, it is correct. Now, next is have to. Have to is considered a semi-modal auxiliary verb because it may have a similar meaning to a modal, but unlike modal verbs, have to takes us in the have to takes s in the third person singular. Unlike modal verbs, have to can be used in simple tense. कच्चे तेल की कीमत $103 से पहुंची ऊपर। पुलिस जवानों ने 40 सैलानियों को सुरक्षित रेस्क्यू किया कुल्लू से। जलोड़ी दर्रे में बर्फबारी के बीच 40 सैलानियों का रेस्क्यू। कुल्लू के ऊंचाई वाले क्षेत्रों में अचानक हुई बर्फबारी। राज्यसभा के लिए 10 राज्यों की 37 सीटों के लिए चुनाव आज। राज्यसभा के लिए 26 सदस्य चुने गए निर्विरोध। राज्यसभा की 11 सीटों के लिए आज होगा मतदान। पश्चिम बंगाल चुनाव आयोग का बड़ा फैसला। पश्चिम बंगाल में चुनाव की तारीखों की घोषणा के बाद एक्शन। मयूरभंज जिले में आए भीषण तूफान में 2 लोगों की मौत। पश्चिम बंगाल के मुख्य सचिव और गृह सचिव। भीषण तूफान से 200 से अधिक घर क्षतिग्रस्त। 12 गांव में कई पेड़ और बिजली के खंभे उखड़ गए। किया और कंकड़ गांव पर सबसे अधिक असर। मयूरभंज जिले के लिए ऑरेंज अलर्ट जारी। विश्व बॉक्सिंग फीचर्स कप में भारत का शानदार प्रदर्शन। भारतीय मुक्केबाजों ने कुल 5 पदक किए अपने नाम। उत्तर भारत में बदला मौसम। शिमला, कुल्लू और मंडी के लिए ऑरेंज अलर्ट। 21 मार्च तक हिमाचल प्रदेश में बारिश और हिमपात की संभावना। दुबई इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट ड्रोन क्रैश में ईंधन टैंक को नुकसान। पश्चिमी विक्षोभ से उत्तर पश्चिम भारत के मौसम। शिमला में अचानक बारिश और ओलावृष्टि के बाद मौसम ठंडा। शिमला में अचानक बारिश और ओलावृष्टि के बाद मौसम ठंडा। शिमला, कुल्लू और मंडी के लिए ऑरेंज अलर्ट। उत्तर भारत में ठंड। ट्रंप ने हॉर्मुज स्ट्रेट खोलने के लिए नाटो सहयोगियों और चीन से मांगी मदद। मदद न करने पर नाटो को बहुत बुरे भविष्य की दी चेतावनी। कुल्लू के जलोड़ी दर्रे में बर्फबारी। कच्चे तेल की कीमत $103 में पहुंची ऊपर। 40 सैलानियों को पुलिस ने किया सुरक्षित रेस्क्यू। पुलिस जवानों ने 40 सैलानियों पर सुरक्षित। जलोड़ी दर्रे में बर्फबारी के बीच 40 सैलानियों का रेस्क्यू। कुल्लू के जलोड़ी दर्रे में बर्फबारी। Now let us go through recognition. Declaratory theory. According to this theory, what is declaratory theory? Statehood on statehood or the authority of the new government exists as such prior to and independently of recognition. Recognition is merely a formal acknowledgement through which established facts are accepted. The act of recognition is merely declaratory of an existing fact that a particular state of government possesses the essential attributes as required under international law. The chief exponents of this theory are Hale, Wagner, Bradley, Pitt, Obed, and Fisher. According to Professor Hall, a state enters into the family of nations as of right now it has acquired the essential attributes of statehood. Pitt Howard has expressed the view that existence of a state is a matter of fact in this world so long as political community possess in fact the requisites of a statehood. Formal recognition would not appear to be a condition precedent to acquisition of the unitary rights and obligations incident thereto. Briefly, Bradley has also remarked the granting of recognition to a new state is not a constitutive but a declarative, as a state may exist without being recognized and if it exists in the fact, then whether or not it has been formally recognized by the states, it has a right to be treated by them as a state. The Soviet view and practice are also in favor of the declaratory theory of recognition. केरला शामिल गुरु चोरी में आज के नामांकन। इस साल में आग लगने से दर्दनाक हादसा। भीषण तूफान से 200 से अधिक घर क्षतिग्रस्त। ओडिशा मयूरभंज में भीषण तूफान में 2 लोगों की मौत। 12 गांव में कई बड़े बिजली के खंभे उखड़े। मृतकों के परिजनों को 25 लाख रुपए की आर्थिक सहायता। इजरायली ईरान संघर्ष का 17वां दिन। हर दिन और भी नए लक्ष्य तय किए जा रहे, इजराइल सेज। ओडिशा के कटक में दर्दनाक हादसा। हॉर्मुज स्ट्रेट खोलने के लिए नाटो सहयोगियों और चीन की मांगी मदद। मदद न करने पर नाटो को बहुत बुरे भविष्य की दी चेतावनी। ट्रंप की हॉर्मुज स्ट्रेट पर। दुबई इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट के पास ड्रोन क्रैश। ड्रोन क्रैश में ईंधन टैंक को नुकसान। 10 हादसे में 10 लोगों की मौत। मृतकों के परिजनों को 25 लाख की आर्थिक सहायता। राहत और बचाव कार्य में जुटी दुबई। मृतकों के परिजनों को 25 लाख। भारतीय मुक्केबाजी का शानदार प्रदर्शन। विश्व बॉक्सिंग फ्यूचर्स कप में भारतीय मुक्केबाजी ने कुल 5 पदक किए अपने नाम। घटनास्थल का सीएम मोहन चरण मांझी ने किया दौरा। मुक्केबाजी में चंद्रिका पुजारी ने जीता स्वर्ण। ओडिशा के कटक में दर्दनाक हादसा। राज्यसभा के लिए 10 राज्यों की 37 सीटों के लिए चुनाव। पश्चिम बंगाल चुनाव आयोग का बड़ा फैसला। विदेश मंत्री एस जयशंकर ब्रुसेल्स दौरे पर। पश्चिमी एशिया के लिए आज एयर इंडिया। ओडिशा मयूरभंज में भीषण तूफान में 2 लोगों की मौत। इजराइल ईरान संघर्ष का 17वां दिन। सीएम ने मृतकों के परिजनों को 25 लाख की आर्थिक सहायता देने का किया ऐलान। सीएम ने ओडिशा के सीएम मोहन चरण मांझी ने जताया दुख। वायनाड से रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन लगातार जारी। घटनास्थल के सीएम मोहन चरण मांझी ने किया दुख। According to the Soviet view, birth of a state is the act of internal law, rather than that of international law. In modern times, international personality does not depend upon recognition. This theory has also been subject to criticism. The view that recognition is only declaratory of an existing fact is not completely correct. In fact, when a state is recognized, it is declaratory act. But the moment it is recognized, there ensues some legal effects of recognition which may be said to be of constitutive nature. In its conclusion, we can sum up. On the basis of the above discussion, it may be concluded that recognition is declaratory as well as constitutive act. Probably the truth lies somewhere between these two theories. The one or the other theory may be applicable to different sets of facts. Judge Lachapet has also expressed the view that it is declaratory of a simple fact of existence of political community after ascertaining facts of statehood in the functional way. On such declaration of statements, recognition is constitutive of certain legal consequences. Swabian has also subscribed to this view. Professor Oppenheim, who has been classed among the exponents of constitutive theory, has admitted that addition of Oppenheim international law, it has been pointed out that there is no settled view whether recognition is the only means through which a new state becomes part of the international community. On the one hand, there is the view that a new state comes into existence as a matter of fact and becomes a member of international community, irrespective of the fact whether it has been recognized or not. On the other hand, the view is that recognition constitutes the new state as a member of the international community. No state has a duty to recognize a new state, and that no new state has a right to be recognized by other state. Indeed, the problem is largely theoretical because the state practice is inconclusive and may be relationalized either way. Professor Briggs has rightly remarked. Judicial theories of recognition deduced from Jurisprudential concepts fail to explain in the effects of state conduct, and deductions from state conduct have failed to provide a judicial, juridical, unambiguous theory of recognition. Professor T.C. Chen has also remarked in the last analysis the question of international recognition is but a reflection of a fundamental cleavage between those who regard the state as the ultimate source of international rights and duties and those who regard it as being under a system of law which defines its rights and duties and that law. The exponents of constitutive theory want the institution of recognition to be under a system of law, and that is why that repairs the chief exponent of constitutive theory posits a legal duty on the part of existing states to recognize any community that has in fact acquired the characteristics of statehood. The act of recognition is thereby defined as a cleverly legal act, with new states having the legal right to be recognized and established states having the legal duty to recognize them. Similar reasoning is used to posit a legal duty to recognize new governments that in fact confer power in existing states. On the other hand, exponents of declaratory theory contend that international personality does not depend upon recognition. They regard the state as the ultimate source of international rights and duties. According to them, there is no legal duty to recognize the state even after it has attained statehood. Thus, according to the declaratory theory, recognition depends upon the discretion or sweet will of the recognizing states. States are in practice not prepared to be bound by any norms. In this connection, however, as was aptly remarked by an eminent writer, non-recognition based on political consideration has lost of its meaning. It no longer produces all the effects it was meant to in the past, since institutions of the international law are but relics of history. They are produced by it and in turn influence its further course. That is why, in the long term, the institution of recognition will surely be more and more affected by inevitable trend towards greater mutual understanding and towards the adoption of principles and criteria reflecting the growing cooperation of states of different political and economic structure. हिंद प्रभावित क्षेत्रों के थाने पश्चिम बंगाल में चुनाव आयोग का बड़ा एक्शन बंगाल में इसी का बड़ा एक्शन आप दुष्यंत नारियाला बंगाल के नए मुख्य चुनाव आयोग ने गृह सचिव जगदीश मीणा को भी हटाया पश्चिम बंगाल में चुनाव को लेकर चुनाव आयोग सख्त जगदीश मीणा की जगह संघ मित्र घोष को नया गृह सचिव बनाया बंगाल में इसी का बड़ा एक्शन पश्चिम बंगाल में चुनाव आयोग का बड़ा प्रशासनिक फैसला इसी ने पश्चिम बंगाल में चुनाव आयोग का बड़ा एक्शन हिंसा प्रभावित क्षेत्रों के थानों के इंस्पेक्टर 2021 के विधानसभा 2024 पश्चिम बंगाल में चुनाव को लेकर चुनाव आयोग सख्त पश्चिम बंगाल में चुनाव आयोग का बड़ा एक्शन पश्चिम बंगाल पुलिस की डीजी पीयूष पांडे से मांगी सूची मोड्स ऑफ recognition may be of two kinds de facto and de jure recognition. The practice of states shows that in first stage the state generally give de facto recognition. Later on, when they are satisfied that the recognized state is capable of fulfilling international obligations, they confer de jure recognition on it. That is why they sometimes said de facto recognized of state is a step towards de jure recognition. We will not discuss it here. little later detailed both kinds of recognition. De jure recognition is granted when, in the opinion of recognizing state, the recognized state or its government possesses all the essential requirements of statehood and it is capable of being a member of the international community. As pointed out by Professor H. A. Smith, the British practice shows that three conditions precedents are required for the grant of de jure recognition of a new state or a new government. The three conditions are as a reasonable assurance of stability or and permanence. The government should command the general support of the population and it should be able and willing to fulfill its international obligation. Further recognition de jure results from an expressed declaration or from a positive act indicating clearly the intention to grant this recognition, such as the establishment of diplomatic relations. De jure recognition is final and once given cannot be withdrawn as pointed out earlier. For de jure recognition and the intention to establish diplomatic relations are necessary distinction between de facto and de jure recognition. As observed by Professor G. Squargin-Berger, de jure recognition is by nature provisional and may be made dependent on conditions with which the new with which the new entity has to comply differs from de jure recognition in that there is not yet a formal exchange of diplomatic representatives. De jure recognition is complete, implying full and normal diplomatic relations with Lateran. In the words of Carlson, de jure recognition is final, whereas de facto Recognition is only provisional and thus may be withdrawn. According to Professor Oppenheim, so far as the legislative and other international acts of the state recognized are concerned, there is hardly any difference between de facto and de jure recognition. Thus, we see that from the point of legal effect, there is hardly any difference between de jure and de facto recognition of a state. As a matter of fact, de facto government enjoys same immunities from suits as de jure government. However, diplomatic courtesies and representations are usually not accorded to de facto government except in extraordinary circumstances occurring in times of war. Thus, the distinction between de jure and de facto recognition is in essence that the former is the fullest kind of recognition, while the latter is a lesser degree of recognition, taking account on a provisional basis of present treaty. In Luther v. Sager, it was held that there is no distinction between de facto and de jure recognition for the purpose of giving effect to the internal acts of the recognition authority. The effects of this case are as follows. In June 1918, Russia nationalized timber and other industries. Consequently, the will of the plaintiff was required. In August 1920, the representatives of the Russian government entered into a contract with the defendant to sell some timber, etc. The plaintiff requested the court to declare that all the goods purchased by the defendant under the said contract were his property. The defendant contended that Russia was a sovereign state and by the act of a sovereign state, the ownership of the plaintiff was ended. British had given de facto recognition to Russia. The court decided in favor of the defendant. Wellington LG held there is no difference for the present purposes between the government recognizes as such as de jure and one recognized de facto. In the latter case, which well was in the former, the government in question acquires the right to be treated by the recognizing state as an independent sovereign state. This rule has been applied in a number of cases, for example, in Bank of Ethiopia versus National Bank of Egypt and Liquori. The court ruled that in view of the fact that the British government granted recognition to the Italian government as being the de facto government of the area of Abyssinia, which was under Italian control, effect must be given as an Italian decree in Abyssinia dissolving the plaintiff bank appointing liquidator. कांग्रेस की रिसोर्ट पॉलिटिक्स कुफरी में ठहराए हरियाणा कांग्रेस के 31 विधायक पश्चिम बंगाल पुलिस के डीजीपी सदन में अहम विधायी कार्य सूचीबद्ध लोकसभा में आज शून्यकाल में सांसद उठाएंगे जनहित से जुड़े मुद्दे पश्चिम बंगाल में चुनाव की तारीखों की घोषणा के बाद एक्शन रेलवे मंत्रालय से संबंधित अनुपूरक मांगों पर चर्चा लोकसभा में आज दूसरे चरण का छठा दिन आज कृषि मंत्रालय से संबंधित अनुपूरक मांगों पर चर्चा लोकसभा में आज दुबई इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट के पास ड्रोन क्रैश। अतिरिक्त वित्तीय स्वीकृति के लिए अनुपूरक। संसद के बजट स्तर का दूसरा चरण। राहत और बचाव कार्य में जुटे दुबई सिविल डिफेंस। विनियोग विधेयक सूचीबद्ध राज्यसभा में आज। सदन में अहम विधायी कार्य सूचीबद्ध। वित्त मंत्री रखेंगे विनियोग विधेयक पर प्रस्ताव। राज्यसभा में आज विनियोग विधेयक पर सदन में विचार। संसद के बजट स्तर का दूसरा चरण। मदद न करने पर नाटो को बहुत बुरे भविष्य की दी चेतावनी। FY26 संचित निधि से अतिरिक्त धन उपयोग की अनुमति से जुड़ा प्रावधान। पुलिस विभाग ने 40 सैलानियों का सुरक्षित रेस्क्यू किया कुल्लू से। लोकसभा से विधेयक पारित राज्यसभा में। जलोढ़ी डैम में बर्फबारी के बीच 40 सैलानियों को रेस्क्यू। दिन का छठा दिन आज राज्यसभा में आज विधेयकों। विनियोग विधेयक सूचीबद्ध कुल्लू के ऊंचाई। पश्चिम बंगाल में चुनाव को लेकर चुनाव आयोग सख्त। वित्त मंत्री रखेंगे विनियोग विधेयक पर प्रस्ताव। पश्चिम बंगाल वज्र के डीजीपी उस पांडे से विधेयक पर सदन में विचार। F26 के अतिरिक्त धनराशि के भुगतान विनियोजन पर चर्चा। I thank all my brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students, scholars, teacher, trainer, professor, professionals, officer, official, listeners, others. I thank all honorable minister managers. I thank all admirable advocates, administrative advisors. I thank all of you. Thank you very much. Nice to see all of you. Thank you.